The future of education. This podcast is an extension / expansion of another podcast on education that I did just a bit ago, maybe a week or two ago. So education, like healthcare, the costs keep going up and up and up. Most fields like through Moore's Law and things like that are becoming less and less and less expensive. You keep getting more computing power. For example, like the smartphone in your pocket has more computing power than what was used to launch NASA to the moon in 1969. So why is everything else becoming so much cheaper, but healthcare and education is becoming more and more and more expensive? So I just focused on healthcare earlier today. Now I want to focus on education. So education was traditionally kind of a monopoly, and that's why monopolies are expensive, because there was no really other way to get ahead in society, to live the American dream of rising up and buying your own home and becoming successful from humble beginnings, except through education. I mean, there were a few things, but not for the masses of people. But nowadays, people are rethinking education because, it's still necessary for many people because, the more education you have, the more you do tend to make in your lifetime. But people are coming out of education with huge student loans, which are crippling. And not only that, a lot of people that come out with college degrees are not getting the types of jobs that they expected. Some people say this is actually the first generation where people expect not to do better than their parents, or may not do better than their parents. But how can this be remedied, or what will happen in the future? So nobody has a total crystal ball, but I feel pretty confident that major changes are occurring because it's not sustainable, so things have to change. And this is what I think is likely to happen. I think that education is going to have to be much more person-centered. What do I mean by that? Right now, education is focused on tests. It's focused on professors, administrators, and standardization. So I talked a little about in my other podcast about how education is more geared towards helping people become good employees, build up the skills like memorization, as opposed to actually life skills. Like they don't teach about money in school, they don't teach about marriage or relationships, they don't teach about child rearing. I mean, all the major life skills that people would need, they just don't teach it in school. The school is only focused on being a good employee, raising your hand, multiple choice tests, memorization. And as an entrepreneur, entrepreneurs work in teams, but in school you can't work as a team for the most part. That's considered cheating. You have to do everything on your own. If you did everything on your own in business, you wouldn't get anywhere. So, for business, for education to adapt, it's going to have to be more person-centered. Rather than everybody learning the same material, it's going to have to be much more personalized. With technology, you could easily do that to see what a person's skills are and do individual lesson plans. And there's something called, I'm forgetting the exact name of it, but instead of using the classroom and then giving homework, they're reversing it so that the homework is actually personalized and classroom is actually used to help the student in a personalized way do their homework, and then apart from the classroom, the student is more allowed to follow their own interests or learn new things. So when I say personalized and learn new things, that's going to be a big part of the future, because most education is more lifelong now. It used to be that you just got a job and stayed with that job, but you can't be successful in a job or get a new job without continual learning. And continual learning, continual education is becoming more and more the norm now. So some programs are actually starting where rather than just getting a degree, you come back at different periods. I mean, you probably do get a degree eventually, but you come back at different periods throughout your career to learn more. And I think education is going to move more and more in that direction of personalization, extended time periods, lack of standardization, so that each people learn, are targeted at the level they're at, and also what I would call intrinsic interest. So if you're going to have to be learning your whole life, it makes more sense to learn about the things that you're interested in. Like, I'm not saying, chemistry, biology, calculus. I mean, some people are chemists and some people are biologists, but all students have to study those things, and most students will never use any of that, unless they are in a scientific field. I think in the future it'll be more, because they've done studies that people learn better when you learn the things that you're interested in. Now, there will have to be some, like, obviously cores, like people need to learn how to write and read, because those are pretty much fundamental to almost every discipline, are good life skills. But some of the more esoteric things, like if you're not a science major, physics is actually becoming a little bit more mainstream because of the laws of physics are the laws of the universe. It might be good for people to have a smattering of these things, but education is going to have to be more practical, more intrinsic interest, and more personalized in the future.